What's going on, you guys? So I'm here for a book review. I was hit up on my YouTube inbox, and I'm thankful that I actually checked the message that day because sometimes YouTube just I be forgetting about the inbox. But I was hit up by Lloyd Johnson. He's an author, and he also has another book out called Tricks for a Trade. I'm gonna have to check that out. But he hit me up saying that he watched my videos and stuff like that. And he hit up a couple other YouTubers. If you watch Bondy Blues, um, her videos, she also was hit up, and she was talking about the book in a couple of her reviews, and she did a review herself. I will have to go back and watch it to see if we're on the same path because I didn't want to watch her review before I did my read the book. But the book is called The Dog Catcher, and once again, thank you so much for hitting me up and actually giving me the book so I can read it. It was a very, very good read, if you ask me. And I say what make this book different from a lot of the urban books that's out there. It's not, you get tired of reading about hood shit, meaning it's like overly exaggerated hood stuff like, oh, I'm this kingpin and I gotta go out and sell drugs, or I'm this I go out and kill people, and I'm this hood chick and I gotta give me a baller and all this stuff. No, it's oh shit, I'm sorry. It's so much more relatable because it's so much more realistic in the sense that it has a lot of issues in the book that a lot of people probably have been through or know somebody who's been through it or is going through it. It touches on the subject of abuse, being abusive in a relationship, or how to treat a child when you find out that they're gay, or dealing with that and the illnesses that may come with being gay or whatever, like AIDS or whatever, because of the lack of protection and the lack of knowledge that was given at the time when it first came out. And I'm saying that because the book takes place from 1973 on to 1991. So you have to put yourself in that mind frame or that time frame and, you know, think that, this is how people think back then. Okay? Because some situations that's going to come up and some things that were said, I had to stop reading. I said, wait a minute, what? Come the fuck again? Woohoo! And I said, wait a minute, this ain't 2014, 2015 thinking. This is 1970 something, 1980s thinking. So let me calm that back. Let me reel it back in and say, okay, y'all did kind of think that way back then. Some people still do, but not so much. But goddamn, okay, when it comes to the gay stuff, it was just, I had to bring myself back like, okay, we on a different timeline, different decade. But basically, like I said, it's more relatable, it's more realistic. And I'm pretty sure if you read the book, it's like you probably been in that situation, or you know somebody that's been in that situation, either personally or you've heard of somebody that's been in an abusive relationship, or who got uh, a deadbeat dad, or who fell for the first person who said, "What's up, girl? How you doing? You looking good? All right." Who used their looks to lure you in, who took your virginity, and that's all that they wanted. They chatted you up, they groomed you, or whatever, until you gave up what they wanted from you, and then they left. Stuff like that. And I just appreciate that fact that that's how the book flowed out, because to me, I guess that's probably why, because it seems so more realistic, why I was able to read this book in a day. Okay, I read this book yesterday. I literally started in the afternoon, and by the time like I start, let me say about 12 something, probably about 7 something or whatever, I was on page 300 or something. Okay, I only took a break so I can watch The Walking Dead. Okay, and then I went right back at it. Okay, that's it. But the book, like I said, it will get you hooked, and it will take you on a wide range of emotions. Like at one point, I was like, "Bitch, are you tearing up?" Because I was like, thug tears, a little bit. The drop didn't really fall. It watered, but it stayed up there. Okay, so I was like, cool, 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 cool. Gotta be hard, like Roxanne say, gotta stay hard. But it was a nice read, and Like I said, the book takes place from 1973 to 1991. And, back then, especially in the 70s and towards the 80s, end of the 70s, early 80s, that's when you start talking about certain situations with the gay lifestyle. The main character had a best friend who was gay, and he had a partner who was cheating on him. They've been together for 4 years, and the partner just went out fucking around all the goddamn time, and he actually got caught when we first get introduced to his partner. He got caught with his pants down, literally by his boyfriend. And they talked about how, at that moment, especially back in the late 70s, early 80s, when AIDS were first out, it wasn't called AIDS, it was called GRID, I think, gay-related illness, disease, or something like that, immune disease. And it was called the gay plague. They spoke on that. And they went on about to when they later changed it into AIDS, okay, what it's called now. And how the body changed, and they didn't have no, how they treated people with the disease. If you get sick and go into the hospital and the doctors comes in, they're looking at you like either because a lot of people wasn't here for the homosexual activities or lifestyle or, whatever you want to call it. And they look at you like one of the characters said, I didn't go back to the hospital because you got the doctors already looking at you and people on staff looking at you like, that's what you deserve for doing what you're doing, for living this lifestyle, for being gay. And then they coming in with hazmat suits on because they don't know what it is, and they think that, they can catch it because it was so new. It was so new. And the way that they put in the features and how things, displayed itself on the body because they didn't know how to treat it, the lesions and stuff like that. I appreciate that because a good documentary to watch, A Normal Heart. Watch that from HBO, and it's talking about the fight of trying to get these people help for this disease and get more information about it, get more research so they can find a cure, so they can find something to slow down the process of AIDS, and to realize that it wasn't just a gay disease, and the bullshit that they had to go through. And actually literally show on that movie them coming in with the hazmat disease clothes on to talk to the patient, and people actually looking at them like, don't let me get away from you because you might cough for me and I might catch it. You look at me and I might catch it. That's how they was doing on that movie. And it was very good. It was a very good movie. So I'm glad that this was put in there. And he actually, used this information and used it right. And the feelings of the parent, his parents, any parent who has a gay child, and, you have some who accept another gay lifestyle and then some who's not. And, we see a couple of those situations in the book. That was one big situation. It wasn't a huge part, but it was part of it. And it later plays on with the main character's own child, her first child, and how that was handled by the stepfather, who was a blatant homophobe. And when I say, girl, we'll get there. We'll get there. She grows up, the main character, let me go back to the beginning. Another key thing of the book was the main character, her name is Cheryl Green. She comes from an abusive household. Not necessarily abusive to her, but the fact that you have to see your mom getting beaten, your mom just taking it, your mom getting cheated on, the husband / your daddy ain't shit. He's a drunk. He can't keep a job. He always down at the bar, fucking around, getting drunk, coming home, still drinking, and just passes out, starting bullshit with the mama. The mama gets to the point where she just turns a blind eye to everything that's going on because she uses her religion, I guess, to keep her strong or whatever. Because, she's one of those holier-than-thou Christians, those ultra-Christians that, I'm not going to break my vows to my marriage even if I'm getting my ass kicked, and even if my husband is going out here just cheating with every floozy, and you can tell that they don't really love each other like that no more, but they just not going to get a divorce. And I'm like, I can never stay in a household, like that. And then we see the views of because of this, because of what the main character, Cheryl, sees as she's growing up, she develops that view like, I would never ever in my life, how can she looks down on her mom, And she already can't stand her dad because of the shit that he does. But it's like, how can you just take something like this? How can you be so weak and take this and then act like it's not happening? Like, you literally turn your face away from the fact that you see him drunk. You turn your face from the fact that you know he's out here having sex with somebody else. That's not you. You know, you let yourself be beaten and you do nothing about it. I will never ever get into a relationship like that. Be careful what you say in those words, because sometimes you say that and then you wind up in the same cycle. You know, it's just a cycle that's not being broken yet. And I like the fact that the Cheryl was given a younger sister named Marva, and we see the way that she dealt with seeing all this stuff in her household. She didn't go down the path that her older sister went. She didn't. She probably, I could say, was the one that probably broke the cycle a little bit. You know, she got her focus on. She focused more on school and getting good grades. And she always liked to draw. She's always, she perfected her drawing and stuff. And she knew that I need to get a scholarship to get into this school so I can get out of here, because my passion is drawing. And this is my way out from this bullshit. And that's what she did. And on the other hand, comparing the older sister, she winds up dropping out of school because she winds up getting pregnant at like 16, 17 years old, because she fell for, I guess, the fine, cool guy up in the neighborhood who took her virginity. All because he was this dark skin with these pretty green eyes, and then he can sing on top of that, girl. Yes, listen to him. Ooh, he sang for her. And he was like, yeah, you gonna be mine and all this stuff. And basically what he was doing was, at one point in the book, she's like, he's listening to me and the troubles that's going on in my household, trying to give me some advice, even though the advice was wrong, give me some advice. Girl, he was just grooming you. He was just listening, trying to get you open enough so you can go ahead and give up your cookie. Okay? And that's what you did. You gave up the cookie. And once he got that, it was over and done with. It really was. Especially after he found out that she was pregnant. And it's like, you went from one dog and you see how one dog was, and you think you can spot it out with your dad. Then you fall into the arms, into the bed of another dog who gets you pregnant at a young age. And then once your parents find out, your mother is judging you because it's like, oh, you're going to go to hell for this. You having a child out of wedlock. And then your father whoops your ass, like literally beats you like a motherfucking stranger, like a man, and kicks you out the house to the point that you have to go stay with a friend of yours who's a gay girl, who's a lesbian, who's a butch, who mother and parents cooked her out the house, and she wound up being emancipated from them and on this program that gave her housing because they called her giving head to another girl. And like Cheryl said, the main character said, like, girl, you mean to tell me y'all didn't know that she was gay? Ain't nothing feminine about this broad, and she just so manly looking, and you mean to tell me, no, they was just in denial. They was in denial, and once they actually saw it with their own eyes, it was like too much for them to bear. So they was like, in that mind frame, we not here for this homophobic shit. This homophobia. Not homophobic, but this homosexual shit. Get the fuck out. Everything's about God and religion and, stuff like that. That's against the Bible. It's against, get the fuck out. And so she stays with her. And then they have a little experiment. Okay? And she took it to mean, oh, we finna get it in. No, girl, it was just a one-time thing. I was depressed. I was feeling myself. I was drunk. It ain't nothing like that. And then her views started changing against her. The friends started becoming more controlling and all that stuff. And then once she had the baby, she runs into her baby daddy, being embarrassed at the grocery store. She got this 6-month-old child and she got to pay with food stamps. And the baby daddy was like, put them away. He pours out this wad of cash, all this cash. I'm like, so you couldn't help her out? Like, I mean, I know you paying for the groceries now and you got all this money in your pocket. You still couldn't give her nothing. Gave her a ride home. The lesbian girls see him. They get into it. He was like, get your ass out of my place. She knocked him out. He getting mad because this dyke bitch, according to him, touched him. Like, bitch, it ain't over. You want to act like a man, you're going to get treated like a man. And, I've heard that from, not to me, But I've seen and heard some shit like that before. Cause Lord knows I be just sitting there like, okay, okay. It's like, cause sometimes, I'll be honest, these stud and bush lesbians, okay, just because you may feel a little more masculine or whatever, you still a woman, okay? So you can't be doing all this stuff and get your ass fucked up. And that's exactly what wound up happening. You know, she wound up getting attacked, okay? And without giving too much away, basically, oh girl, Cheryl, she wanted to get out of this situation. She was tired of living at this house with this girl. Um, she took, she went down the path of having to do what she had to do to get, to provide for her family, to get out the situation, to save up. So she, I guess, went to a strip club. Something happened there that caused her to reconnect with her father and be allowed back in the house, and she was out of that situation. So that was like, you got the daddy is a dog, the baby daddy is a dog, the friend is a dog, somebody that she thought she could trust at a job was a dog, you know. And also in the process of doing all that and raising her son, she meets on his 5th birthday another guy named Ples. Now let me tell you something. What the hell is up with these names? But we gonna roll with it. But this is when the story really starts getting good and it really, really, really starts flowing. When we get the background of her situation and all that led up to why she's with this person or whatever, you see what it is. She meets this guy at McDonald's on her son's 5th birthday. And he basically stepped in when the pimp was trying to, talk to her and was talking greasy to her, and she told him to step off and all this shit or whatever. And the same thing, talk about repeating the cycle. The same thing that was going on with her mother, minus the religion stuff, that's what started happening with her. She meets this guy who came in to almost be like her savior from this pimp that was talking shit to her and trying to get her on his team. And he was like, bitch, I'm with my son and you gonna still talk to me like that? He was like, well, leave the lady alone. She said back down. She not here for it. Just let her do what she gotta do. So he feeling like this is an open invitation for me to come up here and talk to you since I kind of saved you from this dude. And she was like, if you want to talk to me, come to church, okay? He go, and he shows up. He shows up, and they go on this picnic, and they see, this is one thing, I'm going to talk about this. He seen 2 dudes come from behind a building in the park, and obviously, they just got through, servicing either each other or paying for some service from one another or whatever. And he was like, them faggots should be burnt in hell and all this stuff, and I'm not here for this faggotry. So he has a total disdain for the gay lifestyle. Hoes and all that stuff. You know, gay women, lesbians and gays, okay? And come to find out, he's not the only one who feels that way. We find out later in the book. But that was one of the things that stood out to me, like, girl, and then it stood out for the simple fact because you want to see how it plays out because the main character's best friend is gay. And also they threw in the how back then they didn't know what the gay was. The AIDS was, and they called it GRID, the gay related immune disease, I believe. Excuse me. And how they handled that. And I like the way he put that in there. And I like the way he kind of educated you about it a little bit and the views of how people thought back then. And, after that, she kind of seeing some signs with her own son. She pays no mind to it. And she puts it off until it comes back up later. She wound up being with this dude, Ples, for like 2 months. It was a whole bunch of red flags. I'm not even going to give it away. But when you read it, you're going to be like, what? It's so many red flags that happen within this relationship that from the very beginning, from you have a gay friend and he say some shit like that and you still cool with that, that would have been enough for me to end it. Like, girl, please, this ain't gonna work. This ain't gonna work because you're not gonna be talking shit when my best friend is this and da da da, and you really don't give a shit. Then all of a sudden he's popping up, he's acting needy, then he'll get pissed off. He did I would say it also touches on, like PSTD, post traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. He was a veteran in the war, Vietnam, and you can tell that that had some type of psychological effect on him. And also, like I said, I've always said this. You get into a relationship and you want this and you want that, people be so in a hurry to rush into a relationship, so in a hurry to find them a good man or a good woman, and then they find somebody and they it's just too good to be true. Like they all nice and they all this and they doing all this just so that they can reel you in. And that's all he was doing. He was reeling her in. So once they got into this relationship, and the only reason, and wound up getting married, why? Because she fucked around and got pregnant. But shit just changed for the worse. Okay? And it got to the point that you literally said you did not want to be like your mom, but yet you're like your mom. You're in the same type of relationship. And it was just crazy. That was basically the gist of the book. And I don't want to give away a lot of the stuff that happened within it because it was a lot. And it really gives you a perspective on, because a lot of us be like, if you're in an abusive relationship, why do you stay with a motherfucker who's whooping your ass? And it gives a perspective into that thought process of why some women or men, if they get abused in whatever type of relationship, they stay. And it's just like, whoa. Okay, and like I get it now. Cause I just be like, once you touch, bitch, I'm gone. Okay, and get the fuck out. All right. But you just, the manipulation and all that stuff that was in it. I don't want to give too much away, but those were some of the stuff that I felt I should talk about. But just to give y'all a little taste of it, it's a really, really good book. I really want you guys to go out and check it out. And once again, thank you, Lloyd, for choosing me to do the review. And please check it out. Like I said, I put his information down in the more info box, www.lloydjohnson.net. And you can also find The Dog Catcher and probably his other book, Trick for Trade, on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And I will see you guys later. Peace.